an actual Roman antiquity mod, literally Voltaire's German nightmare, and the Elder Scrolls in my EU4? These are the final days of Europa Universalis 4 and the final hours of my playtime. Now, I'm just messing around, of course. EU4 will always be here. But that being said, I think it's high time we took a good hard look at the biggest and best total conversion mods for this game, just like we have with CK3 and Hearts of Iron 4. There are so many mods on the EU4 workshop, literally more than 15,000, and because of this, I've made some tough choices here. EU4 has an army of incredible modders, many of which make overhaul or total overhaul mods or need conversion mods. And because of this, I've been extra harsh in my culling here, and must stress that we're only looking at total conversion mods here. In other words, mods that either completely change the setting, time period, or offer an alternate history reality. I'm certain to have missed a few though, and if I have, make sure to let me know in the comments, and of course, leave a like on the video and a comment with your thoughts after watching it if you enjoyed it. And now, here are the best total conversion mods for EU4 in no particular order. Before that though, Bellfortis is an indie grand strategy game you need to play and a proud sponsor of this video. Just look at this, a fun medieval map where you can move the clouds by moving your mouse, a strategy game with an incredibly clever siege mechanic, and even a transition from the grand campaign to battle maps. In Bellfortis, you get to choose between various campaigns taking place in medieval European regions, with the campaigns beginning sometime during the 9th and 10th centuries, and allow you to take your chosen empire to victory. With unique events, diplomacy choices, and empire development, Bellfortis is an indie strategy game like no other, and if you already love a Paradox campaign, I highly recommend checking this out on Steam right now, especially if you wish to support an indie developer. So check out Bellfortis by following my link below, and thank you so much to developer Rake in the Grass for sponsoring this video. First up is one of my absolute favorites, Imperium Universalis. Listen to this, okay? This is perhaps the deepest antiquity experience you have ever seen, no matter what you've played. Beginning as early as 612 BC, Imperium Universalis depicts the early beginnings of the Roman kingdom, indeed before even the Republic. In an age where Italy is completely divided between different Etruscan, Italic, Greek, and Illyrian tribes and civilizations. This is an age before the Hellenistic kingdoms of the post-Alexander era. It is before even the Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta. Yes, this is the late Iron Age, and begins just before the ascendancy of the Neo-Babylonian Empire and the fall of the Assyrian Empire in the Middle East. But don't go thinking this is a mod that stays to the tried and true Europe and Near East borders. No, we not only have Scotland in this mod, we're not stopping at the early tribes of Norway, we're not saying farewell at the massive gates of India, but we're taking this baby all the way to China, Korea, and freaking Japan. And I mean, look at the detail here, the hundreds if not thousands of different factions all over this map. And that's another thing, I freaking love this map. In fact, it's probably one of the most beautiful maps I've ever seen, with a gorgeous projection, an appropriate text font, and a fresh new coat of paint for both the terrain and the water visuals. Of course, it doesn't end at the scope or the visuals, because a bunch of nations have been given exclusive mission trees that last hundreds of years. We have all new ideas and technologies, and man, so many of them, all new government reforms, new religions and cultures, exclusive estates, and a slew of new eras, beginning with the ancient empires and officially ending with the early migration period of the 2nd and 3rd centuries. Notice all of the little details and symbols and icons, and the new Roman Senate visuals, for example, which go a long way to bring even more immersion. There are two versions of this mod on the workshop, the officially released one which is stable but a little dated, and the dev version which is continuously being updated but is a bit riskier. Hopefully we'll see the main version updated soon, but that's all to say that Imperium Universalis, for all of its greatness, is still being updated to this day, and I highly recommend you check this beast of a mod out. The second mod on this list is one I've spent way too much time in, namely Voltaire's Nightmare, appropriately named because the Holy Roman Empire is literally made up of hundreds of states from northern Germany to Middle Italy. Voltaire's Nightmare begins in 1054 and lasts all the way up until the usual end date in the early 19th century, but due to the massive new map, the scope has been shrunk back to only featuring Europe, North Africa, and the Near East, going so far as the powerful Seljuk Empire. This is an age where Byzantium is still massive, but facing incredible difficulties at home and Seljuk invaders from the east, and so maintaining the current borders will be difficult if not impossible. In Iberia, the Reconquista is underway, but with a powerful Taifa presence and could swing either way. It's an age right before the Norman invasion of England and half a century before the First Crusade, but notice what's going on in France. Just like in the Holy Roman Empire, France is completely cut up into different factions, with the actual Kingdom of France ruling just a handful of regions, but being the sovereign overlord of about 50 different vassals. And that's indicative of what I love about Voltaire's Nightmare, this focus on feudal and political realism, of having to balance conquest with diplomatic ruling and integration. And of course, I am a big sucker for a ginormous focused map, which this absolutely is, while also somehow maintaining a surprisingly large scope. I mean, look at this beauty, it doesn't get much more pretty than this. It's also fun that we have an overhauled HRE system, but also an entirely new one for the Grand Principality of the Rus, which means there are 2 large decentralized hegemonies in Europe alone. There's so much more that could be said about Voltaire's Nightmare, but you really have to try it out for yourself to truly experience its greatness. And a big positive is that because the mod is focusing more on the scenery and scope change, the vast majority of the mechanics are the same as in vanilla, meaning that you'll have no problem understanding what's going on here. Mod number 3, and we're taking a look at Elder Scrolls Universalis. Yes, this is the Elder Scrolls universe, more or less the entirety of it, including spinning planets and moons for your immersive pleasure. From the Imperial City modeled on the map, to well-known cities like Whiterun and Solitude present here, to the vast expanses of Morrowind, High Rock and wherever else, you get to play pretty much any Elder Scrolls civilization and race you want. What's cool about this mod is that it plays around with core mechanics, so even though the technology works mostly the same way, we have a system of smithing which can enhance various parts of your realm, an alchemy system where you can combine ingredients, and even a spell system, with each school of magic represented with a bunch of different effects. In other words, if you love the Elder Scrolls and EU4, this is one to check out. Mod number 4 is Lord of Universalis 2, a mod taking us far away to Middle-earth and the Lord of the Rings, the Doi. This mod offers not just the well-known areas and factions of Middle-earth, like Gondor, Rohan and the various Elvish and Dwarven factions in the west and north, but goes beyond to the far south and east, and even offers an Empire of Rune hegemony mechanic. The mod is not finished by any means, but offers a wide variety of differences between the main factions. Minas Tirith is featured in Gondor, for example, and we have various other unique map models all over. Some are even featured as great projects, like the White Tower of Ectelion in Minas Tirith and the fortifications in East and West Osgiliath. We have all new mission trees that take you through this era, and this is an interesting part by the way, because this mod begins about 200 years before the events of The Hobbit, but depending on certain conditions, the Fellowships of Thorin and the Ring can emerge later on, essentially allowing you to witness and play out the events of the main stories, alongside the all-new eras feature with the late game dealing exactly with the War of the Ring. If you are into Lord of the Rings then, it might be time to check out Lord of Universalis 2. Mod number 5, and we're looking at Post-Finem. This mod takes place in an alternate 1444 universe, where the premise is that Carthage won the Punic Wars against Rome way back when, and destroyed the city in 146 BC. This is a completely different world, one where both Carthage and Rome remains, but where both civilizations' fortunes changed. Carthage was pushed out of Europe and remains a relatively powerful entity in North Africa, while Rome never truly made it out of Italy, but is the leader of the Italian Federation, which is this mod's version of the Holy Roman Empire. In the north, the various Germanic, Celtic and other tribes and peoples have grown strong, and the east has remained much the same as in antiquity, with Aegyptus and Macedonia ruling large empires, and Persia continuing to live on as a Zoroastrian empire. Our main factions have all new mission trees that are tailored to this scenario, we have new and flavorful decisions, and a new Khan of Khans hegemony system. Most mechanics work the same as in vanilla, but with new flavor and sometimes a new coat of paint. So if you're hungry for a classic EU4 experience, but in an alternate universe like you've never seen before, check out Post-Finem. Mod number 6 is another alternate history mod involving Rome, namely the mod purely called Rome, simple and clean. This is a reality where Rome never truly fell, but where it in the 4th century AD managed to create a new stable republic. This new and strong Rome actually lives alongside Byzantium, who in 1444 remains in control of its western territories including Constantinople. Despite being Catholic and Orthodox respectively, they remain allied. In Europe, the Kingdom of Germany is the new Holy Roman Empire. But other than these changes, the world remains for the most parts the same as before, which makes it an interesting premise. You'll see what the world would be like if Rome managed to reform in Italy and if Byzantium's last defenses held true against the armies of Rome. We have new mission trees, and I like that Rome is treated as a republic with a senate, giving it some cool mechanics that stand in opposition to the monarchical features of the Byzantine system. Rome offers a fun alternate history premise and is available on the workshop right now. Mod number 7, and it's time to talk about Anbennar. Anbennar is arguably the largest and most popular EU4 total conversion mod, offering a wholly original fantasy universe with all new mission trees, events, and entirely new races, cultures, and religions, and so much more. What's interesting with Anbennar is that it sort of follows the age development of vanilla EU4, beginning in this universe's version of 1444, but taking us through a similar sort of advance towards enlightenment and modernity. In this universe though, that means transitioning from a classic fantasy good versus evil reality to one that focuses more on gunpowder, colonialism, and so-called magical decadence. The world of Anbennar includes classic D&D races like orcs, elves, dwarves, and more, has its own schools of magic, and comes with 40 new mission trees, new monuments, and national ideas. I personally haven't been able to dive that deep into this one, but I know it's the favorite of many, and if you're interested in a completely original fantasy universe with EU4 mechanics and beyond, Anbennar is sure to be up there with the best of them. Mod number 8 is Third Odyssey, Back to the Motherland, an extremely unique mod that mimics a fun style of Exodus playthrough by taking place in the vanilla history of 1444, but where Byzantium, rather than staying to fight a losing war against the Ottomans, actually leaves its European holdings and travels to the New World in North America for a new start. With new unique events and a fresh new mission tree, this mod is all about the Roman journey in the New World and also about their journey back home, when and if they're ready for that. There's further a bunch of sub-mods for this one, so make sure to check out Third Odyssey, Back to the Motherland's unique premise, and best of luck out there. For mod number 9, I wanted to talk about two mods in fact, the sibling mods of Fate of Islam and Broken Cross. These are mods that depict a different religious and therefore political reality of the world in 1444, but in completely different ways. Fate of Islam takes place in a world where the armies of Islam collapsed on themselves and were beaten back by Christian armies, while Broken Cross shows the opposite, a world where Islamic armies were mostly victorious in their march westward, with a fallen Byzantium and a largely converted Spain and Italy. The neat part is that both mods offer unique challenges to the so-called fallen parties. Are you able to take Islam to victory despite the odds, or push your armies back and re-establish Christendom in old Roman lands? Whatever you try, check out both Fate of Islam and Broken Cross with both of their unique settings. Mod number 10, and it's something as unique as Warhammer Fantasy Universalis, a mod that takes place in the classic Warhammer universe. As a Total War player too, this does feel a bit uncanny coming from Total War Warhammer, but it shows how well this mod is made. The entire world of Warhammer Fantasy is represented here, and it's quite a massive world at that. And seeing as this is a world of a ton of different races, it's extremely impressive how the mod manages to portray so many of them with entirely unique race traits and even make a distinction between good and evil factions, something I like a lot. For example, the elves have both a good modifier and a race trait that allows them to essentially be immortal, which I find really immersive. Warhammer Fantasy Universalis is also amazing at offering unique provinces that actually house in-universe historical cities and monuments, complete with their own artworks and backgrounds. Don't forget about the all-new mission trees as well, which look fantastic, and the perfectly translatable The Empire feature, which unites the realms of men, at least mostly. In other words, if you haven't had enough of Warhammer Fantasy already and want an EU4 version of what the Total War games offer you, then make sure to check this one out. If you want even more Warhammer but a little bit different, check out EU40K, a mod that converts this whole spiel into a Warhammer 40k scenario. I always find it fascinating when space mods come around because obviously the main game was never meant for something like this, but modders are clever of course, and space is here represented by the sea. Everything else works as you'd expect though, with new mission trees, government mechanics and so on, so if you're into the 40k universe this might be the one to pique your interest. Mod number 12 is Ante Bellum, one of the larger mods on the workshop and is as unique as it is well made. This is an alternate history campaign beginning in 1444 and with a few surprising developments. The Holy Roman Empire looks radically different with Francia leading a struggling Christian Europe, while the Islamic powers are ascendant in both Iberia and Italy. While it is a precarious situation to the Frankish-led Europeans then, the Kingdom of Jerusalem is still holding on to a sliver of power in the Holy Land. And if you play your cards right, you might even be able to expand and establish a true Kingdom of Heaven. It all depends on whether you can take on the Nizarid Egyptian Sultanate, of course, and Ante Bellum is continuously updated and just received a large one, partly focusing on the Holy Roman Empire, which I always appreciate, but remember that so many nations have their own unique mission trees and even their own unique starting government system, for even more immersion. There is so much more to Ante Bellum, and the lore implications are fascinating, so make sure to check this one out or join their Discord for more information on its alternate history scenario. Mod lucky number 13, and we are of course, looking at Albania Universalis. This might just be the weirdest mod out there, but it's still a total conversion mod, so I thought I'd feature it. For some reason God only knows, there's 1,000 Albanias, and I hope you like double-headed eagles. It's the year 2000, and there are a few missions here, but I don't know where to even begin with this one. Well, that's Albania for you, I guess, so if you're interested in this massive part of Europe, check out Albania Universalis. At number 14, we have EU4 Chess, which, yes, allows you to play a game of chess if that's your kink. For what it's worth, it works really well, and if you think about it, is an incredible achievement on the part of the modders. Mod number 15 is Westeros Universalis, a mod that takes place in the Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire universe. Play as any of the houses of the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, and do so in the various starting scenarios here, from the rule of the Targaryen kingdoms to Robert's Rebellion and the War for Westeros. This is a mod that takes its source material seriously, with all new religions, cultures, empire mechanics, which even features a small council mechanic, and new decisions. For now, there does seem to be a lack of proper mission trees, but if you can live without that, Westeros Universalis is the closest thing you'll get to Game of Thrones in EU4, and is definitely worth checking out. At number 16 is a cute little mod, but still a total conversion mod called Aurora Regnorum, a mod that simply takes place in Alaska. In this scenario, Europeans fled the Mongol invasion and left eastward, landing in Alaska. This allows you to either play as the native populations now meeting a new people, or as the Europeans trying to make it and even expand in this new world. There are unique mission trees here and flavor, so if you want a uniquely Alaskan experience in EU4, this is the one for you. Last mod is Modern EU4, and even though it's clearly not really all there in terms of unique mission trees and the like, I thought it would be a fun inclusion, because seeing the modern world in EU4 is not something you see every day. Finally, I wanted to include a few honorable mentions, because even though it's not technically a total conversion mod, MEIOU and Taxes overhauls the vanilla experience so much in terms of everything from the map design to factions, mechanics and underlying systems that it might as well be. In fact, if you want a bit of an early taste of EU5, MEIOU and Taxes might be the closest thing you'll get, as it includes all new economic and population systems alongside everything else that makes EU4's core experience so fun. And last but not least, Italian Wars is an incredibly creative mod that features a regional war for Italy, where the different relevant states fight for power and influence over regions in Italy, with the final abilities being to unite the states and take advantage of the Iron Crown of Lombardy. It's a sort of mini HRE, which is awesome, but my absolute favorite feature has to be this beautiful and interactive menu, complete with its own map. In other words, Italian Wars is awesome for this kind of scenario. EU4 is actually the Paradox game I've played the most with no mods whatsoever, and I think it's because the base game is so incredibly well made from the start. But even so, as you can see, there are so many awesome total conversion mods out there that will easily add hundreds if not thousands of hours to your playtime if you let them. Let me know which mods are your favorites in the comments. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to Rick in the Grass and Bellfortis for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!